Okay, everybody. I hear lots of interesting discussion, but I think we have to pull a plug on it. So if you could just quickly wrap it up. I'm going to ask then if we could have people begin to report. We're going to go quickly around. I think we have six or seven tables going. Do you want to do this part, or is this my thing? We need to get a mic around. We can walk around with one. Yes, perhaps that's a good idea. Daksha, can you? Yep. Okay. Let's go. Let's start with the green table right there. And we can take another. Robin.
Oh, thanks. Okay, so
Yes,
we're the.
go.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, we're the green group, which is the Montérégie. So we just spoke up there, so that's kind of cool. We've got some great things to say. The Montérégie West has actually adapted exactly what we've done in the Montérégie Centre in 2 hospitals. So they did it at Sur-Roi Hospital and Anna-Laberge. And at the Sur-Roi Hospital, it seems to be working really well. It's very successful. But at Anna-Laberge, it's not working as well. So one of the detrimental factors was that the rooms can be taken. So the rooms in the hospital, if there's an emergency or if there's an urgent matter, then they can be taken for something else, which will affect the attendance rate.
Okay, availability of space.
Yes. So what they thought of would be, like, since there's the youth protection has a regional mandate, they're kind of in the 4 corners of the Montérégie. So perhaps those people that are kind of floaters can go to, was it Anna-Laberge? Yeah, Anna-Laberge to fill up the spaces.
Okay.
And so as well. Also, there was the parking, which can be tough sometimes. So they thought maybe to make a vignette for the employees of the CIS. So that they can
promotional material.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, vignette.
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
So at our table, we didn't have many organizations that had already had experience besides ourselves, and we had called them English Encounters. And in one territory, they worked very well, but the rest, they did not. And so we kind of discussed strategies that might help us get it going. Of course, the first one is that if the institutions could pay the people to be there, then they would have more time to be there, because they're just not available. That's the big thing, is getting them to have the time. So we talked about having them on location, as you guys did, whereas we had rented halls and things like that, so we might try that. Targeting different quarts de travail. So we were trying to come up with something for breakfast, like Babel and breakfast instead of lunch and learn or something. So, trying to hit some different groups that way. Material, obviously, handing them stuff, making it fun. So we really just discussed strategies, and we have them in notes that we can share with you.
Okay, thank you.
So the little discussion was around small communities and things that could be detrimental to organizing these services. Of course, isolated areas, remote regions, access to high-speed internet, because those were some of the solutions, were going online and helping maybe some sort of Skype or some initiative. But a little bit of a creative organization, phone, the good old telephone can be used. We don't need high-speed internet always, Okay. So you can do phone conversations with some people.
Okay.
And lunch and learn, right? Lunch and learn. The other thing was to just make sure that they can be partnering with some educational institutions who might already be equipped to support somehow. So it's like partnership would be a plus.
Thank you.
Yes, we were talking about also budget, because for coasters. How do we say Basse-Côte-Nord? Yeah, Basse-Côte-Nord. They don't have the budgets for the travel to hire a teacher and go there in person. We used to do it in Coudjouac before. Well, they still do it. So in the remote region, because the bandwidth is not working right, and also is not fast enough, and also because the telehealth is not really efficient because the priority is given to the patients, okay? The best way to improve English and to organize class courses is to take the teachers and send them right there. So, and in Coudjouac we had those budgets, but in Basse-Côte-Nord they don't have the budget for the traveling. So they are limited to phone conversations and also to lunch and learn, but even though they have a lack of volunteers, because the volunteers, they are involved in many things. It's always the same people working, okay?
Okay.
And well, for
Thank
us
you.
in Rimouski, we are lucky. Now I'm lucky with my people and with Chantal. We have bandwidth, we have telehealth, we have everything, so we can be involved in all these activities. We'll be working on that, lunch and learn
Okay.
and everything.
Thank you.
Sorry to have added a lot
That's
of
okay.
things, but
Thank you.
Thank you.
They're done.
They're done. Of course they are.
Maybe behind you? No.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't know. Oh, it is working. Well, people spoke very quickly, and I wrote very quickly, so I'll try to review it. One point was that a lack of internal resources in hospitals can create bottlenecks. It's not necessarily a lack of volunteers, although in other regions it can be a lack of volunteers, in particular in des Laurentides. Mont-Tremblant has sucked all the resources out of the rest of the region. Not a good thing. It's also difficult to allocate more than 1.5 hours a week, and that takes time out of other activities and training. Prioritizing language can be difficult without incentives. Incentives can make a difference in getting people involved. Offering incentives for this sort of thing can lead to union demands for incentives for other activities, which can pose a problem for HR. So funding from somewhere is needed to support this. It can't work on a purely volunteer basis. We externally and internally there has to be some sort of support. There are many volunteers, not all of whom are reliable, and so somebody needs to coordinate those volunteers. In Lanaudière, they proposed such a conversation group last year. There was no interest whatsoever. This year there is interest, and they're setting it up. They're offering lunch as an incentive, but the change from last year to this year could be related to change in personnel, so it depends who within the organization is there to support such things. And I think my final project, the complexity of the project can affect its viability, so somehow it has to be kept simple. And the last point is that in small organizations, it can be difficult to get homogeneous groups in terms of beginning, intermediate, and advanced learners of English, so that can be difficult to coordinate.
Thank you.
I think I covered it.
Okay, good.
So some of the challenges would be the extent of the territory, large-sized territories of CIS. It could be on practical matters, for example, targeting a CLSC in particular, but having workers on the road a lot, or in hospital settings where different lunch hours take place. Also, different large levels of skill levels to pair and to have a minimum requirement to have these participants be on the same level. But on the positive end, there's a pilot project in Estrie where the institution mandated, with an agreement, a community organization with volunteers to have a customizable version of the project where the volunteers take over and they could have different formats, one-on-one, to do it when, how, whenever it would be best suited for the employees and the volunteers.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Well, we were 3, but now we're down to 2, and we're representing Montreal. None of us have actually done this program before, but we thought it was really, really interesting. So it was more about brainstorming for us. And we wondered, is this use the best point of entry to do this? Would it be more effective getting to the hospital directors or administrators first, or just ensuring that the répondant can direct us to the right people to make sure that this is coming from the top down, not just us trying to get in? Also, making sure that we get a demand profile and do some market research to assess the interest of how relevant this would be. And also seeing about the ratio, what's the most effective ratio? 1 to 15 people seems like a lot, but if that worked, then that's great. It's obviously difficult to get a one-on-one, that many volunteers involved. Also to provide material and structured lessons that are pertinent and relevant. So I really like the idea that it's a casual thing. I think we thought that was great, but making sure that the vocabulary that these health professionals will use is integrated into those lessons, not in a super structured way, but just so that they're actually practicing the vocabulary they'll use. And then also recognizing the participants. I think what you guys have done is really, really awesome, and kudos to all of you who have run successful programs. But just as it's important to recognize the volunteer, seeing if maybe the hospital would be in on also recognizing the participants and getting a little recognition. And I think that was about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
We have one more.
Oh,
No?
they
Okay.
non-participating table.
Okay. Hopefully, I think we've gotten through everybody who wanted to speak.
We have. Do
you want to?
I'll just wrap it up here by saying that you may have noticed that this particular activity was not included in Measure 2 when it came to funding for networks. But in fact, we've moved it to the language training component. You may have noticed that there was a point at the last point in the language training in the future was support activities. And this activity falls within that, so don't think it fell off the radar in our next project. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.